Makes no sense. Go back. Home search. Explains. There it is. All right. What a journey. Let's see here if we can't dial this down too. I think that should be good. Maybe. They always say maybe. Got the microphone right here. Or should I be bringing this a little bit closer? There we go. What's up, guys? But yeah, I mean, that right there was, I don't need this right now. That was a really good session, and the reason why it was a good session was a couple reasons. Like, number one, you notice that I made 5 points, 4 points, 3 points. I hit a exponential amount of repeaters. It was horrible. Like, my God. Like, sometimes you just gotta realize that like bad things are gonna happen, but it's not the fact that they're bad. It's the fact that you have to mitigate those risks. And so you saw there was tons of times where that don't pass was getting up to $255, but we stopped. And if I hit, and it's lucky, even though we get come out sevens and 11s, sometimes we get come out twos, threes. Appreciate it. And Mel C, the thing about it is you have to understand that number one, you have to sit here and reduce those things down as soon as possible. So for instance, like, we hit it for, I think I had 255, boom, hit a 2 for 255, or reduce it down to $50 or $25, or go back to an offset 10 and 10. The reason why is because you can't sit here and keep this high level because it's going to exponentially keep getting worse. If you're like, oh, I hit for 255, I'm going to stay at 255 because, okay, hit for 255, you get a 3, your 255 is cleared, so you're now at zero debt, but you have $255 in the don't pass, and then the next one's a 7. All right, okay, well, I can come back with 260, next one's a 7. And then you're like, and you see how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So every single time you hit those, you always want to come back down and do a 50, 25, 30, whichever your comfort level is in. I'm big about like going way, 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 way down, considering I don't want to get way back up. Now, I did have an instance, if you saw, where I had a $300 6 and 8 going. Okay? No. Yeah. $300 6 and 8 going. Did I? No, I had a $600 6 and 8 going. So in that moment, you're like, dude, that's big bets. And I only had a $1,200 odds, which paid $800. So I would have lost $400. And that was me trying to see, like, okay, with a 5 bankroll, 600, thank you. I had a 5K bankroll, you put $2,100 to cover that 6 and 8 going, or I guess it'd be $1,500. No, it'd have to be $1,800, somewhere around there. To have that going, you could sit here and potentially zap your entire bankroll on that 9. So in the sense when I was down the 455 and I had 2 7s in that decision process, I could have sat here and said, okay, well now I have to put $500 in the don't, but that $500 in the don't could come out with a repeater 7. We're on a second point. What's up, Dice DGen? And that right there would have just killed everything. So the decision to say, okay, we're on a third point come out roll, but I roll 2 7s, well, that comes back into the micro strategy of, hey, 2 7s come out, let's work that 6 and 8, baby. And then I was like, all right, 2 7s come out, let's work the 6 and 8 for $600 each. Boom, didn't even get a 6 or an 8. It goes to a 9. Well, if I have 2 7s and a 9 at the micro level, the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, like I would do a hedge, which is put odds on the don't for the 9, and then whatever the payout for the odds would be for the hedge is what I'm putting in total on the bets. Now you see that was a huge ramp up because it was $1,200 on the 9 with the $600 6 and 8. But realistically, you're like, okay, it's a bet that's uncomfortable. It's definitely in the upper echelon of bets, But you sat here, it's the same strategy, just at a higher level. And so Junk Gaming Guru, appreciate it, JK. Um, so that right there was probably the diciest part about that. Now, that was the biggest bet. Was I a little bit diced about that? Absolutely. It'd basically been a huge recovery if we hit that 9 and been down 450. We've been down $1,600, 1,655, something like that. But even in that aspect, you could still nickel and dime your way back. And you notice that even before that, we were up $500. I mean, we made $1,100 in the session off $5,000, but I was already up the 500. So you gotta think in your mind too. If you were at 455 at that moment, you could have stopped right there and said, "Hey, I'm still in my session. I lost 455. I'm up 500. I'm still technically up $55, and I could stop right here because it's uncomfortable, and I could scale this back down to $100. And if I make that, now I'm only up $155. It comes into your comfort level of how do you want to play craps, essentially. And for me, just the amount of rolls that we went through, it was like, all right, what did we see in this session? I saw nothing but repeaters, nothing but clusters of sevens, nothing but X, Y, and Z. So what does that really mean in the long term? You're like, okay, well, a player's not going to make 6 players not going to make 5 points in a row over and over. It can happen. It's improbable, but not impossible. So I do have to sneeze. I'm just trying to hold it back. I don't know though yet. So, when you have those mental decisions, I'm like, all right, well, am I going to sit here and do this? Am I going to do that? You have to tell yourself, like, it is possible to roll 11 points. It's absolutely possible to roll 3 8 points, 3 10 points, and then come down to a 4 point. It's happened to me. And the worst thing that can happen is that you talk yourself into like this improbable thing will never happen. Well, you gotta think about this. Every time you see 15 dice rolls, and you take those sequence and probabilities and say, what's the chances of you rolling these 15 numbers in a row again? And it'd be just inconceivable. Obviously, it'd be a big number, but like it's every instance in craps can be turned into a very rare event. So if you start hyping yourself up like this will never happen, that's when you can get in a lot of problems with the exposure aspect. But think about it though. Like, I hate to say it, but you have got to think of your bankroll as your sanctuary. And the reason why I say that is that there's a reason why sometimes I put the cash as a visual aid is to, number one, make it real for the subscriber. Like, hey, we're going to be sitting here using cash, or I'm going to show you the cash equivalent. So when you sit here and say, hey, you have a 455 down, $1,200 out there, I mean, that's $1,200. I mean, that's like, I'm going to pull this wrong, but I mean, $1,200. So now your bankroll has gotten smaller. Everything that you've done has now whittled down, so you can't sit here and go and try to do any other gambit, because now instead of having $5,500 or $5,000 or $10,000, I think that's $10,000, you're gonna have $8,000, and that should change the way you bet. That should change the way you move. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just gonna scoot me a little closer. I guess it is me. I'm looking at me and seeing me in the TV. So you have to look at that situation very much like, hey, is this worth it? Am I going to want to do this? Is that I'm going to be able to recover from this? What's going to happen if I have to recover? What's going to be my next move? After that move, what's my next move? And where's my stopping point? When I say stopping, when am I bankrupting? So if I make this bet, then the next bet is the third bet I can't make because I don't have enough money. Then I need to think about what this bet currently is going to do to me 3 bets from now. So, and also when you see out here, and this is something I never really account for because it's kind of hard to account for, but you can't sit here and really account for a working 6 and 8, or a working 6 and 8, a bunch of 2s and 3s coming out. It's happened in a couple of streams recently where I've done 3, I've rolled an ace deuce 3 and rolled it a couple times in a row, and it recovered me, gave me an extra $100 or $50 or $200. It doesn't even matter. The thing about that is that yes, that's nice, but what is 100 infinitely more probable is come out 7s and 11s. Because you got to think 7 is 6 out of 36, 11 is 2 out of 36. So 8 out of 36, which is 4 out of 18, 2 out of 9. So 2 out of 9 chance of always losing your money there. But the odds of you getting a 2 or 3 is only 3 out of 36, which is 1 out of 12. So you're looking at 2 out of 9. Let's see, what's 9 and 12? So we got 18. I don't even know the math for that. But like I said, it's bad. I mean, really, let's just bring it back to 36. So I mean, like 8 out of 36 versus 3 out of 36. So you're 8 to 3 favored to lose on that don't. Think about that. So now you're like, well, Charlie, it's 36 dice rolls. So, 8 and 3 is 11. So you still have, 25. So, 8 to lose, 3 to win, and 25 to do nothing. I'm like, yes, that's true, but the nothing thing is great because nothing is nothing. But if you have something that's going to be doing something, that's what I want to know. And so to me, in my experience at a casino, I always like to think a 2 or a 3 come out is like a gift, and I never plan for it. I never allocate for it. It shouldn't be, in your decision-making process. But the risk of 7s and 11s should always be in the back of your mind. So you take the gift as it is and reduce down for your risk and then go from there. Like another thing that is a little bit difficult to also show and manage is the fact that like, hey, don't sit here and so I made a couple of field bets and, in making those field bets, I'm mentally just thinking in my mind like, all right, I think 5 have been rolled, 6 have been rolled. And that's just because I'm talking to you guys, I'm dealing the game, I'm paying myself, I'm doing the system, and keeping the betting amounts in my head all at one time. That can get confusing very quickly, and I'm going to translate that down to if you guys are doing my strategy, you're going to have appreciate MLB. Oh, MLB City, my boy, man, where you been at? So, don't sit here and get discouraged when it comes to like, there's so much going on in your head that I can't keep up. Like, I got a lot of things in my head too, and I get confused, you get mixed up, you can't keep track. But the good news is, if you have that kind of high level play where you have a lot of these what if factors milling around in your head at home, you can get better at that and get faster at that. So by the time you get to the casino, dude, you're like, I mean, it's when I say you're moving at super speed, it's because they're moving so slow at a regular casino. You have eternity to make these decisions, which to me is very awe-inspiring. Like, I know this is going to sound very not good advice, but like, I mean, half the time on my streams, I'm hammered. I'm talking, doing everything I just said. So when I go to a casino sober and play this game, it's like on easy mode because of the conditions I set for myself at home. If I can sit here and there's his name is Dre, and Dre in Vegas one time, he was like, I want to see you play this. I'm just not comfortable with that, which is a great answer. Like anyone that comes up to you says, I'm just not comfortable with the strategy yet. I don't really know it and understand it very well, so I just don't know. That right there is an amazing answer, just in general, amazing answer. The second thing though is that, I'm talking to him and we're at Park MGM, and I was like, listen, I am tore up. I'm like 3 edibles deep. I'm 50,000 shots deep. Like, I was like, but you know what? I'm going to play and kind of teach you some stuff. Now, in that instance, okay, we talked and I rambled drunkenly for 2 hours straight at like 2 o'clock in the morning while playing, but I was making bets of like $5, $10, $30 and down, being very, very conservative. And even in that span, I made $200, but I was telling him, he's like, well, it's dangerous playing like that. And I was like, not dangerous in the betting style, but dangerous, being inebriated or being a little sideways. And I was like, guys, like, well, yeah, it's true. That's why I like doing it at home, inebriated sideways. Because if you can muddle around, I was just playing, yeah, with one of them, did well. Good job, MLB City. So, that's just, I think, a thing to consider is that you should hold yourself to a higher standard when playing at home versus playing at the casino. I definitely don't think you practice at the casino, absolutely not. I mean, you practice at home. And I also think it's, one of those things that, and I know people have different ways of playing. I know that people have different, there's different motivations. Just this camera, just a hair. I don't know if something bad happened or something good happened. It could be the world. Tripod in the back. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why I don't put the camera so I can just look up. But I mean, it's a difficult game. It's 100% a difficult game. And in saying that, you have to be very locked on in your gameplay to just do this. And even so, in that scenario, there was a couple of upper echelon bets. You're like, ah, man, that's a little bit rough. But at the end of the day, you just got to look at it and say, hey, like, is this the best bet for the situation? Am I doing a logical choice that's outside the realm of what I would normally do? And does my bankroll support what I can do? So, at the end of the day, please God be careful. Now, does anyone have? I don't know how many people are on the stream right now, but does anyone have any questions about any of the gameplay that happened, or any questions about craps? This one's gonna be a pretty short one because I think I hit everything that needed to be hit. You know, I don't think there's anything crazy that I missed, unless I don't know. Yeah. So, has anyone got any questions for me at least? If not, then man, we can sit here and just kind of relax for a few more minutes, and then man, I'm out. Outskis. I got drink water, hydrate, not be drunk, so I can be drunk later. But yeah. So another thing too to consider, I think you saw me do it multiple times when I was saying stop. I'm just gonna like empty my rack and kind of color up a little bit. You can't do that at a real casino. They'll make you keep your color. They might color you up if they need one. Like, hey, you drop me a stack of red. If they see your stack really filling up for stupid reasons. But the thing that I would say to you guys is that, anytime a bet, for me, when bets get around that thousand, let's just say $600 to $1,000 bet range, when it comes down, the first thing I do is just say, okay, let me see how much money I have. Am I up? Am I down? How much am I up? And I think that also gives you a way to just say, hey, take a minute. I don't understand the concept. It's like you're clenched so tight because of these huge bets that you just made, that your first reaction is to say like, I gotta bet again. I'm like, whoa. You just made some crazy big bets. Let's take a shooter off. Let's just offset the pass and don't pass, take a shooter off, and run from there. You don't have to be crazy every step of the way. And you certainly don't have to sit here and be high octane the entire time. Stress kills animals, guys. Like, I'm just saying, when you sit here, is that you put an animal under stress, it dies within minutes, okay? Like, stress kills animals very quickly. So understand that, like, stress will kill you. It's a silent killer. So people in general, I think in life, the older we get, we have a lot of stresses that keep piling on. It's like, 1,000 little stresses that pile up. Don't let the stress of gambling or big bets force you to stay clenched and to make another bet. You could easily sit here and say, hey, I'm just going to, I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z. And then if I hit a big bet like that, I'm just going to sit here and calm myself. Relax. Everything's okay. Nothing bad happened. We're not down. We didn't lose any money. Just settle. Sorry if the wind's blowing really bad. I did the math, and the player has a positive expected value when playing the 6 and 8. Is that right? We can talk about more of that because I have your. I know. Realistically, let's talk about a working 6 and 8. So, here's my logic. Okay. So first of all, the odds of you rolling a 7 is 1/6. Okay. So that's the probability of two-sided dice. 6/36 reduced down to 1/6. Mathematically, if you say it's a fraction or ratio, whichever way you want to say it, I'm going to say a fraction. It's 1/6. To roll a second 7 in a row is also 1/6. But to roll 2 7s like that, if you said, what's the chances of me rolling 2 7s? They're going to say 6/6 to the second power. So the 1 comes over and it's 1/36. Okay? So when I say here, when a player 7's out, instead of having a 1/6 chance of rolling a 7, it's now been modified to a 1/36 chance. They're going to roll a come out 7. That's the chances of you rolling a come out 7. It's 1/36 after the 0.7 out. Now, if you roll, obviously, a 7, 11, and back to a 7, that's a whole different thing. But to roll 2 7s in a row is 1 over 36. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, is working a 6 and 8 immediately after a 7 good? Yes. You cannot expectate a value of just working a 6 and 8 randomly past a string of numbers. But you can say, well, I do know that 2 7s rolled is 1 over 36. I think 3 7s rolled, I don't have, where's my other? Here it is. I'm just going to look at my other phone and use the calculator and see here real quick. Calculator. It's not downloaded. Oh, wait. Give that a second. So when I look at that working 6 and 8, I'm like, okay, let's look at this. I think it's a 1 in 36 chance you're going to roll a 7. To work a 6 and 8, I think is a great idea. But let's now, and that right there is just that one aspect. Now I'm going to bring it back down to the micro level, okay? So once again, let's just say you don't believe in, statistical probability over time. You want to say, I am just saying the one roll probability chance of every roll, there's a 1 in 6 chance. So if that's the case, let's concede that fact for the argument, because I want to, if you have that opinion, I'm not here to argue a math lesson, but let's put that aside and say, okay, I'm going to do one better at the micro level then. So it's it's 6 over 36 to roll a 7, okay, every roll. Well, if I'm expecting one hit on a 6 and 8, okay, one hit, turn off, come down, one hit. So it doesn't matter either one. If I hit it, I just need to hit one of them. So when you think about that, let's combine the 6 and 8 into one bet. So essentially you're telling the dealer, if I have a $12 6 and 8 working, you have $24 risk to receive 14, okay? So in that thing, or in that scenario, a 6 is 5 over 36 chances to hit that, an 8 is 5 over 36 to hit that. Combine them together because, like I said, you're making a $24 bet combined to win $14 somewhere in there. So together, it's 6 out of 36 to roll a 7, 10 out of 36 to roll a 6 or an 8 at any one time. So right there, you're at a 3 to 5 favor for hitting at least one, not both, not multiple times, but if you're just trying to hit one of those numbers, you're a favor to win that exponentially. It's 5, like I said, it's 3 over 5. You're a 5 to 3 favorite to hit. Now, understandably, like you just said though, you're like, well, Charlie, you're betting $24 to win 12. I'm like, I am, but it's the argument that you'd say like, hey, it's the payout is the game of craps. The money received, the money given, that's a rule of craps that they have created. When you talk about just probability, that is you are expected to hit a 6 and 8, one of those, more often than a 7. Regardless of the action doesn't count, that's just the math involved in that. So you are correct, MLB. Like, it is a good bet. I think it's a good bet on those two different levels without getting too much in depth on the rest of them. Those two levels right there as it stands are a really good argument to sit here and work a 6 and 8. So, that's my 2 cents about it. So it is a good bet. I know you got my info. We can talk more, but like I said, and then I know it's weird to realistically have this logic, but you guys saw that I kept pressing by a unit, 2 units on these 6s and 8s over and over and over and over again. And I had a bunch of money on the numbers when we stopped. If I would have kept going, we probably could have made 1,000 relatively a lot quicker than the hour it took me to make that 1,000. Because like I said, the more money I have, the more it can just keep making more money. If you're doing a calm, conservative, and patient strategy, whatever strategy you're using, I'd hope. So in saying that, when I looked at that and said, okay, we're stopping, but you notice during those crap session, when I would lose it, I came back with the same amount, even though that was a pressed up in profit. So you got to think, if you're looking at, a $30 6, well, it started as a $12 6, so I had to hit it for 18, 24, 30. So if I only did $6 each time, that was 3 hits I made on that every step of the way. So, when you have that kind of progression, it gets big. But when that 7 out does happen and I came back into the progression, you notice I always, it could be like, I'm using this as an example, but like $30 on a 10, $12 on a 6, 18 on an 8, 10 on a 5, or 10 on a 9, and then $40 on a 10 or 4, whichever one, I've lost track. But every time that zomped, but I came back with the same amount, I sat here and created a, can I do a pyramid? My hands go straight? There you go. I did a pyramid, okay? Where 7, that's out of this equation, but the most probable numbers had the most money, which is the 6 and 8, the 5 and 9, and then the outside. So that's a really key factor if you're going to do something like that when you're redistributing your profits, that you need to sit here and say, hey, I need to always put the most pressure on the most common. That's one of the arguments that a lot of times I have for dice influencing or dice controlling or dice, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, I always think it's kind of a little bit silly that a dice influencer would do everything they can to avoid a 7 when I'm like, well, 7's the most common. You'd think if you're influencing dice, you'd want to go for the easiest combination, which is the all 7 set, and throw 7s on the don't. Or just, bet the hop 7s or any 7s and roll 7s. That's me. That's, it's a little here or there. But other than that, I think try to do any kind of announcements. I met up with DGE trainee. Also, I forgot to say this because I always forget this. If you do want to get on the Discord, I have a really kind of finicky thing. I like my Discord, but we try to keep it very small and tight knit. So I always say this: if you do want to be on the Discord, you need to comment on a video, and usually comment on the latest video, and a subscriber that's already in the Discord will send you an invite. I don't send, once I hit, I think I'm at 150 or 200. I'm trying to keep it around 150 to 200 just because I like the group size. But mind you, I know it sucks because you're like, well, that's kind of counterproductive as a YouTuber, but like, it's my Discord. That's what I want. So if you want the Discord link, one of the people on Discord are going to have to find the link. So you have to kind of do a little bit of scavenging right there, which is a little bit interesting, just considering the fact that it's just a weird whatever. But other than that, it happens. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but not really. I'm going to be going to casino a little bit more often now. I know the poker room's opening up, so that might take my time a little bit, but I am going to try to get a little bit more out there. Also, I am going, I'm burying this in this live Q&A, so most likely a lot of people won't see this in my subscriber list. If you do, kudos to you for watching me ramble on. But there will be a meetup, a little impromptu meetup in Hard Rock, Seminole, Florida, sometime in April. So that's exclusive. I didn't say it to anybody else. I didn't even say it on the Discord. So, and the reason why is not my bachelor party, but I'm going to a different bachelor party, and we're going a couple days early just to go to the Hard Rock Seminole and gamble and play craps. So I will probably be putting that info out when I get that actual dates. And then also, it's not going to be Florida, Jen. Now, in saying that, and this is the second part, which is a little bit more, I don't know yet. Because anyone that's in the Discord or like one of my original subscribers or like inner circle subscribers, they all can tell you the same thing, is that I am fickle, to say the least, in the most honest of terms. And in saying that, my bachelor party is the end of June. It's like the third week of June. And my brother, my fraternal brother, my biological brother, we're going to be, some of those Indian tribes won't allow do-we-don'ts. Boo. I hope so. I know that so Jen just said some of those Indian tribes won't allow do-we-don't, though. I will say this. The only thing I've heard about Seminole are lots of new craps, lots of new craps players. The only thing that interests me is that someone reached out to me for Hard Rock. They say, hey, you haven't done Hard Rock yet. And I was like, well, I'm not a big fan of weird minimum maxes. And I don't know if this is true. Maybe you guys can tell me. I was told that Hard Rock Seminole has a $10 table, 100x odds, $10,000 max bet. Now, if that's true, that's awesome because I'll go down there and start putting down the list. Right now, the list of like my number one casinos obviously is going to be Chicago for 25K, $10 table is 25K max bet, 100x odds. Then Shreveport, which is $10 table, $10,000 max bet, 100x odds. And so if Seminole has the same thing that Shreveport has, I'd much rather wire money down there and go to Florida than Shreveport. If you've been to Shreveport, it's amazing casinos, but you don't walk outside of the casino in Shreve. And so I will say for me, my bachelor party is the third week of River Chicago. You dang right, River Chicago, Texas Crapshooters. I think it's in Chicago. It's like 2 to 5 miles away from O'Hare, but I think they call it Des Plaines, Illinois, but it's Chicago. Like it's Rivers Casino in Des Plaines, Illinois. I'm trying to think. There's like the Ruby Rose hotel next to it. That's usually a good indicator. But or the Four Roses, something fancy but not fancy, ironically fancy. But for me in the bachelor party, my bachelor party is the third weekend of June. We're going to be in Chicago, not Chicago. We're going to be in Cherokee for like that week, Cherokee, North Carolina. I'm going to be fishing a lot and drinking and the various things, but basically just trout fishing, hanging out with the boys. But I think we're going to dedicate one day to going to the casino and doing all that stuff. So there might be another meetup, even though it's weird to have 2 meetups for me in a year, let alone 2 meetups a month apart. And go from there, and we just won't know. I'll know when I know. MLB City said, have you ever just tried the 6 and 8 after 2 7s, or you always do both? I usually just know if you go to Florida because I'm about to, oh, sweet MLB. I've sat here and run the 6 and 8. To me, when you see through my 7 DGE gambits, you're like, what really makes you the money? Like, what kind of keeps the hum of money flowing in? I think a working 6 and 8 does, and I think if you don't hit that 6 and 8, the 5 and 9, 4 and 10 hedge, to hit a 6 or an 8, essentially, is where the main force, I think, of money just slowly trickles in. I think also the anti-fire bet +5 always sits here and I think makes a lot of consistent money. And then realistically after that, you see it all the time. I think when I do these live streams, I did one lay. I think it's been about 5 live streams since I've done a lay. And the reason why is I think it really drives home the fact that it's really hard to roll 4 4s inside or 5 4s inside a 2 7s. It just doesn't happen very often. Hence why the development of the strategy has just exponentially increased over time, because I spent so much time waiting. That's where a lot of this came from, is just the wait factor. So, that's, I think, all the news I think that I have. I'm going to be at Hard Rock in April. I'm going to be in Cherokee third week of June, which is going to be really cool. If who knows who will show up for one day for the old Charlie bachelor party. That would be pretty interesting. But, that's just me. That's just, the whatevers. But I think that's it. I don't know how long we've been on, but I'm sure we've been on for a hot minute. So, guys, like, the best thing, I know I always try to leave you guys with something, something that you can kind of take away from it. With the session itself, I would say take away the fact that it's never about the good times that get you where you need to be. It's the bad times. So understand that there was a lot of repeaters, but we still managed to mitigate that risk and still make a profit. So it's not just, it only works in the best times. You got to say it's going to work every time. And you got to understand that. Second takeaway is always going to be like, this is real money. Like, I'm not saying this is real. It is real money, but like, not like this is real. I'm saying, I'm just trying to put this in perspective for you guys, especially when you get into more higher end gambling, is like, this is what, $10,000 looks like. Now, this could represent 6 months of bills, a year of bills. This could represent taxes. Like, this right here represents something. So don't disrespect the fact that these chips are cash. Like casinos love to say chips or chips. I'm like, no, chips are cash. That black chip is worth one black chip is right here. So in saying that, make sure to always associate these bets with cash because that's going to force you into that fear mode of being even more conservative, even being more tighter, which can allow you to really succeed in the conservative and moderation ship of profit later in time. On the other notes of you guys, I will say this over and over again, and I'm trying to, there's some things that I always like to repeat because it needs to sink in. If you like any strategy, not just mine, any strategy, you guys have got to practice at home. You should make, and I know it sucks because you're like, that's just so lame. But like, you need to make $100,000 on a strategy at home playing craps, and not just, oh, I busted in one session, I'm going to reset the session. No, if you have 50K and it took you 6 months to get to that 50K, and you back down to 0K, you start back over at $500 and go right the freak back up, because you learn so much along the way. But also, you need to do it at home first. So do not try even mine. Don't try my strategies in a casino. Practice at home first. Make sure you understand it, and then go to the casino. Always play responsibly, I think that's it. Like I can't think of anything else. I am going to, I think, get offline now, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. I know I'm going to be drinking water and hydrating. Don't stay out to 2 o'clock every night. It will eventually just like take away your soul. But other than that, guys, it was fun. I'm going to get up. You're going to see all this. Oh, I forgot all my DG fundamentals. No wonder I've been losing so much lately at terrible tables. Back to the basics. Jen, like, you guys don't know, I'm going to say a little thing about Justice Jen real quick. I know people like pop her out because when I say pop her out, a lot of YouTubers shout her out because, she does help exponentially. She's in the community. I think she's a well-known name in the community. And she does a lot of good things, but this is me talking to you, Jen. And the reason why I talk about Jen is that Jen is constantly like a scholarly person trying to learn strategies and play. Jen, as an example, when I met up with her, she had a comment to my strategy, which is really good to tell you guys, because she's like, Charlie, I love your strategy. I love the conservatorship, but buddy, like, I can sit here and power press the inside on a good roll and make $10,000. Whereas you have nothing available to you to really, you can risk and lose $10,000, but nothing really does the opposite fact where you profit $10,000. And right there, that's just a comment. That in itself isn't what I was talking about. It's the comment of saying, hey, you should be constantly looking for ways to improve your game. Jen does a really good thing, is that she is constantly looking to improve her game. She's not trying to be an acolyte or a neophyte to any other strategy or my strategy or anything like that. She's just like, hey, I love playing craps. I love the community, and I want to get better. And I think the reason that I like that is because it shows that someone can do something wholly different, or just take a piece that they like of your stuff and apply it to their life. And when she says back to basics, what does that really mean? And I say this to you, Jen, as well as to you guys, like, back to basics just means calming down, practicing at home, and just understanding where the holes are. It could be like, hey, and if I'm using Jen as an example, if Jen says, okay, I'm going to practice at home, I'm going to take out one of these strategies I've been using a lot and see if it even impacted my game whatsoever. And then you keep kind of filtering out one by one those lines, and then you realize, well, I really wasn't even making that much money on like this gambit. Like, so the risk factor is there, and costly tuition. The risk factor there is just, once again, and that's what I did, is that I looked at certain things. A common example would be, I used to play the hard 4 or hard 10 when I had heavy lays on it, because I was like, well, I'm trying to reduce from 336 to 236 on odds and do a little bit of an insurance play. But I realized over time that $50, $100, $75, $300 hard way, when it did 7 out, was just constantly eating away at the profit I could have been making along the way if I just assumed that I was going to hit a 6 out of 36 versus 33 out of 36, which is, hitting a 7 versus hitting a 4 or a 10. So, and that right there took me saying, I'm going to run 2 different bankrolls. I'm going to make the exact same bets every single time. I cannot deviate. I'm a meat robot, just boop, 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 boop. And that's because I can't program. But the only rule change I did was, okay, I'm going to lay the 410 when it needed, just like the DGA strategy says. The only difference is I'm just not going to, put the odds, or not odds, I'm not going to put the hard way insurance bet out there. And I ran that for 100 hours. I want you to think about that. Now, me playing by myself, now this is for the camera, and people who've watched my stuff, when this table slows me down significantly. Every now and then I'll bust out my other table that I sit down with, and anyone who's watched my older videos, when I say I can crank out rolls, this is how I'm like, boom, boom. I should be boom, 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 boom. I'm averaging, a 1.5 second roll, payout, and talk. I'm just blah, 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 blah. So 100 hours of me doing something in that style format is realistically, I'm just going to say it's 5,000 hours in casino playtime, which is years of casino playtime. Even in my heyday of going, the most I ever went was once a week for 8 hours. Let me know when you're online again. I'll love to listen to what you have to say specifically to the math game. Yes, MLB, and we'll probably do a section instead of doing a Q&A. We'll probably have something that's like a pure mathematical, hey, let's talk about the math of craps. Ooh, John's probably gonna steal that. Ooh, I have to text him that name. Hey man, we should do this. You should do a section called the math of craps. Craps, the math game. I always like to do John because John's so fancy in programming that I'd rather him do it and make it look nice than me do it in a basement. It's not a basement, it's a big warehouse, but still, sitting in a warehouse, just me talking to my iPhone. He'll actually let's go on Mid-Atlantic, he'll actually put some effort into it. So Jen, when I say, that 100 hours, think about how sad that is. That's 100 hours of no thinking. Double betting, no thinking, with one minor rule change. Now, the way I did the DGE strategies when I was developing the DGE strategies is that, now that was 2 bankrolls with 1 rule change. I would sit here and do 7 bankrolls or 10 bankrolls. I could never make enough money on DGE with a 5K bankroll, but it's really excellent for bankroll preservation. Practicing discipline is a lost art. Everyone else makes me feel so much. FOMO. And you know what? Jen says it best, because once again, and I like to think that for people that don't play my strategies, and Jen, this is talking to you, I like to think of, I think Wade this once said in his talks that he likes to reach into the tool bag. Maybe I need to get the right tool for the job. I like the analogy because the analogy says this. I want to play, let's just say Jen plays Jen. I'm just going to say whatever she plays, that's what Justice Jen plays. Well then, let's say the table turns bad, cold, nothing's happening. That Jen will say, hey, this is how I like to play, this makes me happy. Well, now I can reach into the proverbial tool bag and say, hey, I'm just gonna ride out this weird period doing a DGE strat just to kind of muddle, both. And that's what I'm talking about with you guys. I'm not expecting anyone to use my strategy. What I am expecting is that you guys need to constantly learn, develop your own way of playing your strategy, make it your own, and steal from every strategy you can find. I think that's what makes a good person, is that they're stealing things that they admire about someone else, and whether it be a personality trait, whether it be a gambling trait. And so for me, if I would want someone to steal from me, what would I want someone to steal from my gameplay as a craps player or as a craps teacher? I don't even think of myself as a teacher. I'm just a craps player. As a craps player, if someone stole something from me, I would want them to steal the fact of just being patient, calm, and conservative, regardless of their strategy. And that's it. That's what I'd always want to be known for. Is you need to be patient, calm, and just very adopting, not stealing. I guess that is true. Stealing does have a negative connotation. Adoption, yeah. I always like to say this, as a craps player, your cup should always be half full. So that way people and environments and situations can train you and teach you. But if you are a cup that's already full, that you're I know everything that there's to know about craps. Don't talk, and you shut out your mind. Well, you can't learn or adapt to a cup that's already full. I cannot help you because your cup's already full. So I know I just use Jen as a diatribe, but like realistically, Jen, like, she said it best. She's like, hey, I'm getting a little bit meddled in my play, back to basics. And I think that anyone that has these rough sessions and these rough times, or just a stint where they're just like, I'm just not really getting anywhere where I want to be, it's back to basics. Fall back in love with craps and fall back in love with those little stuffs that brought you back in the first place. There are people that come out even, and I would say this, I have never seen, and maybe you guys can correct me, I've never seen a strategy nowhere near as complicated as mine. Like the DGE strategy, I'm almost positive is the hardest and most complicated strategy to learn in craps, unless I'm missing somewhere else. But I mean, though the DGE complete DGE system is a monster. It's horrible, most complicated thing forever. And so, in saying that, it takes a while to learn. Now, other people can learn and be more profitable by other ways, but once again, it's still a learning aspect, and you gotta treat it as a learning aspect. But, even me, I'm sitting here, I watch other YouTube strategies. Now, there are some live streams I'll do, and I'll just, I'll criticize, or I'll analyze, conceptualize, articulate, speculate, articulate, and just, I'm not gonna say that one. But, when I look at those strategies, I'm looking at purely from, a place of math, a place of, well, I wouldn't do that. You got to watch out for this. Why would you even do this system? Like this right here doesn't feed right. Like, why would you feed this? Because I'm now at this point, at first I was like, well, this is why I wouldn't do it. But there you go. A lot of my stuff has many moves. See, Mid-Atlantic Craps, even his gameplay, you sit here and become, I would say, an expert in your strategy. It's hard because people like to cherry pick things out of your strategy. So for instance, Mid-Atlantic, I could grab one of his gambits and then he would look at me and say, Charlie, yeah, you understand that one gambit, but you're utilizing it in a way that I didn't intend for that to utilize. So for instance, for Mid-Atlantic, or for instance, for mine, a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but a guy sat here and said, I made $8,000 with your strategy today. And I'm like, that just is impossible. My DG strategy cannot make that. It's impossible for a DG strategy. I was like, how long did you play? He's like, 4 hours. Like, it's impossible. Unless you are at a 100K max table and you're doing an enormous bankroll. But he said he did it off $5,000. And it's just, when I hear that, I'm like, well, something's off here. And what he was doing is essentially he was like, he'd wait till a 410 was established, he'd max bet it to $7,000, put 3,500 across, hit 3 times and come down. And I was like, that's somewhat like mine, but obviously there's 17,000 different ways, and that's not how that was intended. Because what happens if a repeater happens, 10 sevens happen, whatever. He ended up getting up $16,000 and losing it all. Because like I said, that gambit wasn't intended to be used like that. And also, if you know the underlying motivations is conservatorship, patience, and moderation, once again, so to use Mid-Atlantic as an example, Mid-Atlantic, I have a lot of moves in mind. So the issues I would have, and maybe Mid-Atlantic could agree, is that people would cherry pick his gambit, use it incorrectly, and then come back to Mid-Atlantic and say, I don't know, something's wrong. And you're like, well, what was the intent? What was the intent? So it's very hard to kind of dial your own strategy in. And I love that Jen's saying this over and over again, but back to basics, because that's what you have to do. Is at the end of the day, if you think something in your gut's going wrong, you need to stop eating all food and slowly introduce food back into your diet and see what is causing you that issue. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that because, guys, we're all here on this channel, we're all here on this live stream, we're all gamblers. I understand that fact, but you don't have to be degenerate gamblers. I know I'm a degen, but you don't have to be a degenerate gambler. What I mean by that is by God, we don't have to lose it all and just say we had fun. We can be degenerates in 17,000 different ways. Can we at least be happy? You don't have to pay your bills. You don't have to pay your support. You have to pay a lot of things. You can have bad credit, no credit, any credit, and still go to Bulldog Kia and get yourself a Honda Civic. You know what I'm saying? But you can still come to that table as a degenerate gambler and say, you know what? In one aspect of my life, I am going to be locked, tocked, and ready to rock. And that's going to be sit here on this table, on the craps table. And that's just my 2 cents. I think that's it. I'm out. I said that 7 times. I think I said that 20 minutes ago, but Outskis Badowskis. But it was fun. Ooh, kind of messed up that. And this is Charlie from Drunk Guy Explains. We'll check you guys. Oh, where's my finger? Damn, where is my finger? Charlie from Drunk Guy Explains. I'll check you guys next time.